Today, we're making banh mi Xiu Mai, or a Vietnamese meatball sandwich. Now this banh mi is incredibly underrated compared to others because it's probably a little bit messier to eat. Between the juicy pork meatball and the savory tomato sauce, you're bound to get a little messy. So what it lacks in portability, it makes up for with a ton of flavor and texture. Banh mi Xiu Mai is one of my childhood favorites and is actually pretty easy to make at home, and to me, it's what comfort food is all about. So do me a favor and make sure you like, comment, share, and save this video. Alright y'all, remember to wash your hands. Now before we make our Xiu Mai, let's prep some of our toppings. First we'll make some pickled veggies, and we'll start by peeling our carrots and radish. Once our veg is peeled, we'll cut them into slices and then into matchstick pieces. Then we'll toss our veg with some kosher salt to help draw out some of the moisture and keep them crunchy, and this will only take about 10 to 15 minutes. Then our pickling liquid is equal parts sugar, vinegar, and water. We'll cook that gently on medium-low heat, just enough to let the sugar fully dissolve. Then we'll let the pickling liquid cool down to room temperature before pouring it over the veg. Now once our carrots and daikon are pliable like this, they're good to go, so we'll give them a quick rinse. We'll put our veg into a container, pour over our pickling liquid, and let that vibe out in the fridge. Then I have some cucumbers, and we'll slice that in half lengthwise, and then into spears. And whenever we have cucumbers, we have to pay the cucumber tax. Then I have some jalapeños, and if you don't like the heat, you can remove the veins and the seeds. And for the jalapeños, we're also going to cut them into spears. Moving on from the toppings, let's prep the rest of our ingredients to make our Xiu Mai. First, we have some green onions, and we'll only need the white parts for this recipe. So we'll separate the whites from the greens, and we'll cut the white part in half lengthwise, and then we'll just give that a fine chop. Then I have a small shallot, and this will be used in our sauce, but we'll also give that a fine dice. Next up is our jicama, and if you've never used this before, it's a root vegetable that has a crispy texture, similar to that of a water chestnut or apple. Has a mild and nutty flavor, and jicama is what really makes our Xiu Mai unique. We're gonna peel that. Cut it into slices. Then into strips before cutting it into a small dice. Now the last part of our prep is turning our pork fat into a paste. Pork fat should be readily available at most Asian grocery stores. Otherwise, just ask your local butcher to see if they have it. Now to make the pork fat easier to process, I like freezing it for a couple of hours prior to cutting it, and we'll just cut the pork fat into small chunks. And if you like this recipe and you want to learn how to make more of your favorite Vietnamese and Asian dishes, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications to stay up to date on all my latest posts. Then we're gonna throw our pork fat into the food processor and blend that until it's completely smooth and turns into a paste. The pork fat is essential to this recipe as it's going to give our meatballs a more bouncy texture. But as a worst case scenario, if you can't find the pork fat, you could substitute it with an equal amount of shrimp instead. Now once we have all of our prep work done, it's time to make our meatballs. To a big mixing bowl, I'm going to add in 2 pounds of our fatty ground pork, half a pound of our pork fat that we turned into a paste. We'll add in a couple of tablespoons of our green onions, and a tablespoon of minced garlic. We're going to season our Xiu Mai with a tablespoon of oyster sauce, a teaspoon of MSG, half a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of sesame oil, a pinch of salt, and some white pepper. And then before I forget, we'll add in our diced jicama. We're gonna give that a good mix, and then we'll also add in a tablespoon of cornstarch to bring it all together. Once that's all evenly mixed, we're gonna get some gloves on. And then you'll want to have plenty of oil on your hands to make sure that the meatballs don't stick. And one of the hallmarks of this recipe is the size of the meatballs, so you'll want to make sure that you roll some nice big and plump ones. And with this recipe, you should be able to make 12 big meatballs. Once they're all rolled up, it should look something like this. Now, to keep this recipe traditional, we are going to steam them first before adding it to the sauce. This method was adapted by the Chinese influence with their dim sum style dishes. So to a bamboo steamer basket, I'm going to lay down a piece of parchment paper and we'll add in our meatballs. Now make sure you don't overcrowd your basket as they will expand a bit while it cooks. To a pot of water that's almost boiling, I'm going to drop in our bamboo steamer, and we'll let our Xiu Mai steam on low heat for about 6 to 7 minutes, or until the meatballs are cooked through. And while our Xiu Mai is steaming, we're going to make our tomato sauce that makes this dish distinctly Vietnamese. So to a big saute pan on medium-high heat, we'll add in a splash of oil, and we'll saute some minced shallots and garlic for about a minute, or until fragrant. Then to the pan, we'll add in about 6 ounces of tomato sauce. We'll cook some of that raw flavor out for another minute and let that start to bubble up. Now to that, we'll add in half a cup of water. And we'll season this with a tablespoon of fish sauce, half a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of chicken bouillon, and salt and pepper to taste. Then to finish our sauce, I'm going to add in a cornstarch slurry made with equal parts cornstarch and water. We'll let our sauce thicken slightly and turn almost silky. And then we'll finish that with a tiny splash of sesame oil. And then once our Xiu Mai are all done steaming, we're going to gently drop them in the pot. Turn your heat to low, and then cover the pan with a slight crack and let that vibe out for about 5 minutes to let all those flavors marry together. After that, we'll finish with some fresh ground black pepper And then it's time to put our sandwich together. I have a nice and toasted Vietnamese baguette, and we'll slice that down the middle, making sure to not cut all the way through. Then I have some Kewpie mayo, and we'll add a generous amount of that. We'll add our sliced cucumbers, our homemade pickled veggies, some of our jalapeno, and a handful of cilantro. Then we'll add our Xiu Mai right on top. And we can't forget to spoon over some of our tomato sauce. And just like that, you've made banh mi Xiu Mai at home. As always, the recipe and measurements are on my blog at feedtheputch.com. And if you've made it this far, let me know in the comments section, what's your favorite sandwich? Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.